Now, another really important thing is sleeping. You know, you should sleep 8 hours a day. It's proven that if you don't sleep, you are more stressed, you get more tired, you might have a higher incidence of diabetes. So the next time you take a nap and your husband goes, "Why are you sleeping?" you just say, "I'm saving money." Because you are going to help yourself be healthier. Sleep is very, very important. And the reason I point this out is I didn't want you to just think that this is a little presentation about save money, invest money. We'll get to that. But there are other things that are very, very important. To be healthy, to be agile, to sleep enough. 1/3 of Americans actually report losing sleep because they worry about personal finances and the economy. And I think that's so true. How often have you not gone to bed and worried about your job, or worried about, you said you did, right? Or worried about bills that you were going to pay. And so it's sort of a double whammy, right? So sleep's not good for you. Now you're also worrying about not sleeping, so now you're not awake, so you can't work, and it becomes a vicious circle. The reason they worry about it, now this is really important, 43% of the population has less than $10,000 in savings. Only 16% of our population is confident that they have enough money to retire, and 50% don't even try. They don't even put any money into a retirement account. So really, this is more a function of planning than it is anything else, or putting importance in it. There's some statistics out there that people spend more time planning their vacation than they ever spend time planning their investments or thinking about their money. Or how about earlier, we saw that slide of the lady who said she spent 2 years planning her wedding. The average person spends 15 minutes every 6 months on their finances, right? So then they say that if you have a formal financial plan, you're much more confident about your retirement or about reaching any of your financial goals. So what does that mean? You know, what is a financial plan? You know, it's kind of a word that is thrown out there. It's really a blueprint. It's sort of a plan that is set so that you can achieve your goals. So what do you need to do a financial plan? So I think all of you should go home and write down, actually write it down, not have it in your head, but actually write down what are all the financial goals that you have in your lifetime. So for some of you, it might be goal number 1 is to pay off my student debt. Goal number 2, it's to have enough money to have a wedding. Goal number 3, to buy, have a down payment for a house. Goal number 4, might be something like start a savings account so that I always live within my means. It doesn't really matter if you're earning $10,000 a year or $1 million a year. If you're spending more than what you're earning, you're always going to be stressed. You're going to be like that person who is losing sleep. The other thing that's really interesting is, so I work with individuals. I work here in Silicon Valley, and I was very fortunate early on in my career. I started to work with a local company that became very successful, so I have many wealthy clients. But the one thing that I've discovered is the common denominator amongst my clients, it's not that it's the guy who made $10 million, it's really the people who consistently save money. And there are people out there who make $1 million a year who are always broke, and there's people out there who are teachers who have amassed $1 or $2 million in retirement savings. So anyway, the first thing I think you should all do is write down what are all your goals. Then you should write down, well, what is your current financial situation? I would list down on a piece of paper, I would write it down, not in your head. Okay, I owe this much in debt to this organization. I have this much credit card debt, or I own a car free and clear, so that you can make a net worth statement. Then when you look at your net worth statement, if you have a mortgage debt, or if you have a car loan, or if you have student debts, write down next to it what the interest rate is that you're paying and what your payments are. Because all of a sudden you might discover, wow, I have 2 student loans at 6%, I have a car loan at 4%, and yet I'm paying my car loan off quicker. Maybe you should pay down your student debt quicker. So that's part of, creating the strategy, and then you execute on the plan. So the plan might also be something like, I'm going to start saving $100 a month, or I'm going to save $150 a month. Or one of my goals might be, I want to have a $10,000 CD. How am I going to get to that $10,000 CD? So some of the other tools for, the traditional place for getting retirement income was Social Security, a pension, and a 401k plan. So if any of you work at a company, you should always participate in your 401k plan. What's really interesting is that people will start a new job, and it'll be so overwhelming because the first couple of days, you go to all these orientation meetings, and you sort of gloss over the lady who comes around from benefits because it's sort of not, relevant to you at that moment. But I think the benefits are really important. You have the health savings accounts, you have the pre-tax spending accounts. Very few people take advantage of it. It's really worth, your time to take advantage of it. Beyond the 401k, you can also save in stocks and bonds. What happened here? I didn't do anything.
We're not moving, so.
What's that? Oh, we got to move hard?
It says motor.
It's actually kind of nice. You can see. Yeah. But you probably can't see it right. So.
All right. Besides,
Right. I don't know what we did before, but.
Okay, besides saving in your 401k plan, which all of you should do, and if you feel like you don't have any money, at least do the amount of money that the company matches, and then every couple of months just increase that percentage, because before you know it, you won't notice that you don't have it, and you'll have a nice 401k balance. You also should spend some, yes, go ahead.
I just have a question for you. When I worked for a company in my past, I did invest in the 401k for the simple reason the options. I looked at the options, and like on the Morningstar fund, 5-star rating, all the funds I had were 2 stars and 1 star.
Okay, we'll talk about that afterwards. I will promise you I'll come back to that. Try saving in stocks and bonds, and then really use your other employer-sponsored benefits. I think the other thing that's important to do is always spend a little time studying about investments. Even if you think it's boring, it's really, really important. When you go and look for a house, you look at all the features of a home. I think it's really important to also understand, truly understand how mortgage rates work. So let's now just say that you're going to become, you want to retire. You're in your 50s and you want to retire, and you discover that you don't have enough money to retire. And you probably don't. We really have to reframe the thinking of retirement. Traditionally, people thought that they could retire at age 60. We're now going to live to be 95 years old, many of us. That means we have to have saved enough money for 30 years, which is just a daunting task. So I think it's much more important to think today about what is it that you want to do for the rest of your life. Maybe you want to have a career that you really love so that you don't want to retire, so that you could delay retirement, or maybe you could start a second career. You want to stay healthy because, of course, that saves money. We've seen that. So I think it's really important to exercise. You want to be a lifelong learner, and you want to control your spending. You want to try to spend a little bit less money, so that you want to spend a little bit less money than what you earn. The other thing I wanted to talk about, since many of you are women, I think it's really important for women to understand how financially devastating it is to leave the workforce, to have kids. I think that traditionally women are taught that it's a good idea to stay home with your children, and because you're ensuring a better childhood for them. I think people don't look at the costs of doing that. The costs are that you're dropping out of the workforce, that you're not earning money during all those years, that you're not having contributions to your Social Security account, and because you're actually creating vulnerability in the family unit. It's not just that men that you might get divorced. It might be as simple as your husband could get disabled, he could die. I think it's much more important to figure out a way of having a career that maybe you could work 6 hours a day, And even for those years, when you calculate and you say, you know, it's really not worth it for me to go to work. I'm spending as much money in daycare, or I'm spending as much money in commuting costs as what my net pay is. You need to consider how that impacts your earnings, though, for the rest of your life. Because during that time period, while maybe you're not really making any money, you're still investing in your future learning. If you drop out of the workforce, sometimes it's very, very hard to come back into the workforce. So, you know, so we talked about, we have options in how we want to retire. We have options of what we want to do. And it's kind of up to everybody. You know, it's never too late to be, you know, what you might have been, and you can create those choices for yourself. Okay? All right, thank you.
Thank you.